So in today's video, I'm going to discuss some books which are prospective reading material for your preparation for GRE. And these books are useful more in terms of certain concepts which you can take, and you can read different type of books also, but make sure that the books cover a wide spectrum of fields, and that will certainly help you in your GRE preparation and also make your preparation more pleasurable. So not only these will help you in GRE, but also if you are preparing for a similar exam such as GMAT or something like that. So let's start. The first book I have in my list is by John Grisham. And John Grisham is actually a very good writer who mostly writes novels related to the legal profession. So one of the things about John Grisham is that you get a good insight in terms of the litigious nature of the US society and also the complexities of US society in terms of the different classes which are there and the power of corporations versus the normal or common people. So again, a starting point of this could be one book which I have, which is Grey Mountain. So I hope you can see this here. This is Grey Mountain by John Grisham. And again, this is one specific book which I have, and I have read many more from the libraries. And one of the things about Grisham is his writing is very smooth and very easy to follow, and therefore if you are a neophyte, then this is a good place to start your reading of thriller type of literature. Now the next book on my list is Foundation's Edge, and this is a science fiction series known as The Foundation by Asimov. So again, you may have heard of this person, and he has written several books on the foundation as well as robots and so on. And again, this is one more type of fiction come thriller which takes you to a different type of dimension and increases your diversity in terms of your reading as well as your proclivity towards science. So again, this is the book, so I hope you can see it. This is The Foundation's Edge, and this is one in a series of books on foundation. And again, this is a writer you can study, and you will find most of his books in various libraries and in bookstores and so on. Now a third writer whom I like is Murakami. And Murakami is a Japanese writer, so his books are typically translated, but his writing is very different from that of most people I have read. And in some ways his writing is kind of cathartic, and it is an experience in terms of introspection and melancholia. So the book I have is Norwegian Wood, and there are many books written by this particular person, but this is one book which I liked a lot, and I hope you can see this here, Norwegian Wood by Murakami. So an excellent book, and the point about this book is it is somewhat saturnine in nature, though it is a life portrayal of a college student. And if you are too depressive in terms of temperament, you may have difficulty in reading this book, but if you read this book successfully, then you are very ready for graduate study and graduate school. Now one more book I like, and that's from the Germanic region, is Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. So again, this particular book is somewhat weird when you read it, and it takes you some time to realize that the author portrays a particular fantastical situation in a certain small family, but he is not really just discussing the particular problem which this family has, but is talking about more complex issues which pervade society in the modern day and age. So again, Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Very thin book, but it's certainly going to leave a mark on you, and certainly it will improve your language and literary skills. Now among the Booker Prize novels, one I have is by Kiran Desai, and this is an excellent book, and it covers people who are present in India as well as in the United States, and it weaves these two countries in a manner which brings out various aspects of these particular societies, particularly the various problems in these societies and the complexities which are there in these two societies. So again, I found this book extremely deep in terms of reading it, and again, I'm sure this book is going to have a big impact on you. So that's the book by Kiran Desai. So that's a very nice book. Then one more writer I find very motivating is De Bono, and among his books I find Lateral Thinking to be one of the best. And lateral thinking is a different way of thinking compared to the typical vertical thinking or forward thinking which we indulge in, where A leads to B and B leads to C. And in many real life situations the problems are not so simple. So De Bono suggests some ways of thinking which are better in terms of yielding you novel solutions. And I have actually used lateral thinking in research in terms of actually thinking about the possibility that a solution is there and then trying to find a problem and things like that. So again, De Bono's book Lateral Thinking. And again, there are several more books written by this person which are very good in terms of provoking your mind and also improving your thinking and linguistic skills. Next book on my list is The Black Swan by Taleb. And essentially this book is a probabilistic journey, and essentially it critiques and castigates probability and tells you that the normal distribution is not the most effective way, or in fact a not good way at all, to predict most situations. And many situations which take place in reality are black swans. So these are events which have very low probability, but they have finite probability, and it's almost impossible to predict them. But there are ways to make your situation more robust respective to the possibility that these situations take place. So again, that's The Black Swan by Taleb. So again, very nice book, and the author has enormous depth in terms of his reading, so you will get a huge amount of information from this book. Now the next book I have is by Gladwell, and this book is about a story of success. And here he looks at various people and he tries to think about the fact as to why some people are more successful than the other people. And he comes across many issues, and these have to do with nature versus nurture debates and particular things which help people in terms of success and so on. So again, Outliers by Gladwell. That's a very good book, and there are more books by this particular writer which are also good starting points to read this non-fiction type of situation. Now a very classical book in the field of management is by Peter Drucker, and he's one of the founding fathers in the science of management. And this is a book which essentially has a lot of philosophy, a lot of background in terms of organization theory, and the fact that management theory can help people become much better persons, and it can in fact improve the direction of countries, societies, corporations, and people themselves. So that's the book Management by Drucker, and again a very good book to read, somewhat of a tome as you can see from its thickness, but again this is time well spent if you are interested in thinking about the corporate world and so on. Talking of the corporate world, one of the best books I have seen on startups is by Peter Thiel, and this book is 0 to 1. And this book not only discusses about startups from the Silicon Valley perspective, but also about the various concepts which make a certain type of capitalism which creates this kind of creative destruction and leads to the formation of startups. So again, 0 to 1. So essentially what he's telling you is that there was no startup, and then there was one startup, and this particular thing is one of the most important creations of the modern technology and business synthesis which is there. So pretty thin book, but very useful for your knowledge and growth. So after all these non-fiction, I come back to a fiction case, and this is a Nobel Prize winning novel, I think, and this is by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It's an exercise in solitude. And I think if you can read this book, you are ready for graduate study. So in fact, it took me quite some time to read this book, but again, the book grows on you as you read it, and it's a great piece of literature. So I would recommend everybody to read this particular book, 100 Years of Solitude, and certainly this book will leave a lasting impact for you. And now, beside all these possible books which are likely to improve your growth as a verbal scholar and in terms of verbal skills, there's one book on mathematics which is not really mathematical, but it discusses aspects about mathematics which are beyond the left brain, and it tells you that a lot of mathematics develops because of creative activities, in terms of paradox, in terms of sudden growths which come out of different problems being posed in the field and so on. So the book is How Mathematicians Think by William Byers. So that's the book here, and there are a lot of things here in terms of number theory, geometry, and basic aspects which are somewhat similar to GRE quantitative reasoning. And reading this book will certainly give you a lot of depth in this particular area, and you will become much better in terms of your understanding of the fundamentals as to why the mathematics is the way it is and how the mathematicians essentially create in mathematics. And that's a kind of revelation for most people who are used to thinking of mathematics as a very dry and boring discipline. So again, these were some basic books which I think are very useful for you if you are on the path of GRE or GMAT, or in general trying to become a scholarly person. And you can buy them, or you can get them from a library, or get them from some friends if you have some. So I hope this video was useful to you, and please stay tuned to my channel for further videos on such topic. Thank you very much.